It happened in the middle of my sophomore year. Our school wasn't large, but lockdowns still happened from time to time, usually drills. But that day, I knew it was different. The announcement came over the PA system. This is a lockdown. Teachers, secure your classrooms immediately. Our teacher froze. For a split second, the look on her face made my stomach drop. This wasn't a drill. She quickly locked the door, closed the blinds, and whispered for us to gather in the corner, out of sight from the door's narrow window. I remember hearing my own heartbeat pounding in my ears as the whole room went silent. After a few minutes, we heard footsteps echoing in the hall. They sounded heavier than normal, slow and deliberate, almost like someone was dragging something across the floor. I looked down at the gap under the door and saw a shadow. It was just standing there directly outside our classroom. They didn't knock, didn't speak, and didn't move. Whoever it was. They were just waiting. We sat there for what felt like hours, no one daring to breathe. Then, finally, the shadow moved. The footsteps faded, and silence fell over the hall. But even then, I kept looking at the door, feeling like whoever had been there wasn't truly gone. Eventually, the principal's voice came back on, shaking as she announced, "The lockdown has ended. Teachers, please resume normal activities." We could tell something was off. Usually, they'd give us a bit more information, but the teachers just told us to grab our things and stay close. Walking through the halls, I saw 2 police officers near the entrance, quietly talking and looking around like they were still on high alert. Later, we found out that a man had been seen wandering around the school. He'd somehow bypassed the main doors and was discovered near the girls' bathroom. When the police found him, he had no identification, no phone, and no bag. Just a strange, unsettling smile on his face that one of the officers later described as wrong. He didn't resist when they let him out. He didn't say anything. No one ever found out why he was there. To this day, I still wonder what he wanted. In 7th grade, I experienced something that still sends chills down my spine. Our school had large windows lining the halls, so you could always see outside. It was located in a somewhat rough area, so we occasionally had lockdowns. But one afternoon, we were in science class when the announcement came through. Lockdown. This is not a drill. The tone in the principal's voice was different, shaky, almost scared. Our teacher motioned for us to quickly get under our desks and stay silent. I remember being close to the window, and as I glanced out, I saw the sky was dull, gray clouds casting an eerie glow over everything. But that wasn't what caught my attention. There, partially hidden by the bushes, stood a figure. At first, I thought it might be one of the groundskeepers, but something about the way he was standing was off. He was still, too still, staring directly at the classroom. I couldn't see his face clearly, but his outline was unmistakable, a tall figure in dark clothing just watching. I stared at him, my heart pounding. It felt like he could see me too. And then he did something I'll never forget. Slowly, he tilted his head to the side, like he was studying me. And then he took a small step forward. I froze, closing my eyes, hoping he would disappear. The lockdown lasted nearly an hour, but it felt much longer. When it finally ended, we all scrambled to leave, some of us talking in hushed voices about the figure. Later, I found out the school had been on high alert because multiple people had reported a man in a long coat, hood pulled low over his face, wandering around and staring into classrooms. No one knew who he was, and no one ever caught him. But every time I walk past that window, I can't help but feel like he's still there, just waiting for someone to notice him. This happened during my last year of middle school. It was after school hours, and I was staying late for basketball practice. Most of the students and staff had already gone home, so it was quiet, eerily quiet. Suddenly, an announcement came over the PA. "This is a lockdown. Secure all doors immediately." The timing was strange since hardly anyone was left on campus, but our coach took it seriously, locking the gym doors and telling us to stay in the center of the court. As we waited, a strange sound began to echo through the gym, whispering, soft and indistinct, but definitely there. At first, I thought it was just someone outside the gym, but the whispers grew louder, surrounding us, almost as if they were coming from the walls. It sounded like multiple voices, all speaking at once in hushed, urgent tones. My friends started looking around, eyes wide with fear. The whispers seemed to move, circling us, like they were looking for a way inside. I remember feeling like the walls were closing in, like something or someone was right there on the other side of the door just waiting to get in. We huddled together, barely breathing, waiting for it to stop. Eventually, the lockdown ended, and we rushed out, desperate to leave the gym behind. Later, I learned that a former student, someone who had been expelled years before, had been caught trying to get back into the school. The scariest part? He hadn't been anywhere near the gym. He was found by the main office, far from where we'd been, and he'd been alone. The whispers we heard weren't coming from him. To this day, I have no explanation for what we experienced in that gym. This story is from my friend, who went to a different high school. Their library was old, with dark wood shelves and tall windows that cast strange shadows at dusk. One evening, during a late study session, they heard the lockdown alarm go off. The announcement was brief and urgent, instructing everyone to hide immediately. My friend ducked down behind a row of books, hiding with a few other students. The library was almost completely silent. They could hear faint footsteps in the hall coming closer, pausing every few steps. But then, the lights went out. The library was plunged into darkness, and all they could see were the shadows cast by the last bits of daylight. Then they saw it, a figure moving between the shelves, a dark shadow gliding silently. My friend thought it was the librarian, but as they watched, they noticed the figure wasn't walking. It was floating, moving smoothly, without any sound or footsteps. The shadow paused near their row, as if it was aware of their presence. My friend squeezed their eyes shut, barely breathing, hoping the shadow would move on. Finally, it did. And after a few minutes, the lights flickered back on and the lockdown ended. When they reported seeing the shadow, the librarian simply said there was no one else in the library that night. My friend still refuses to go back there alone,